I'm Brendan Louthain. I'm the outside hitter here at Lindenwood, and I'm a senior.
Joe Kosciw, head coach.
Well, thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on, and I'm gonna start with my questions. First question, Coach Joe, what is it gonna take both in conference schedule and non-conference scheduling to get this Lindenwood program back to where it was just a year ago, where it was both recognized by the Miva and the AVCA that Lindenwood was a top 20 team in the country?
Yeah, for us, it's obviously for me since I've been here and he can attest to this. I always love scheduling tough in the non-conference side because then it kind of preps us for going through the conference gauntlet that we see. But ultimately, when we play some of those non-conference matches, we need to show and kind of produce a positive outcome, more so just wins. And when you do that and you kind of stack some wins, you kind of build that rapport with the ABCA committee and with teams in our conference that you kind of get a little bit more respect put on the name. And we know that we're going to have to start from this, square one basically because it's a fresh year and kind of build our report a little bit more just to kind of keep stacking some of those wins. And we have a lot of guys that are excited after the fall to kind of get grinding and get working. But I think ultimately for us, it's we need to show up, we need to prove something and kind of go out and play our brand of volleyball.
And Brendan, how would you describe Lindenwood's style of volleyball that may differ from programs across the country, programs in the Miva? What specifically about Midwest volleyball do you think goes unnoticed when it comes to this conference?
Yeah, I think with us specifically, when I watch our like practice film or game film, I think our main strength is speed. I think we're going to beat a lot of teams with how fast we play, with how fast we run our offense. There's times in practice where, like, if we're scouting a team, and coach will tell the other, like the scout team setter to slow down, I have to completely, change my blocking footwork just to match the speed of other teams because I'm so used to blocking our tempo in the practice gym. So I think speed is the number one thing that we are good at. And I think that can go for a lot of Midwest teams. Not everyone in the Miva runs a really fast offense, but there's a lot of good, technically sound teams, really strong defensive teams that we have to be prepared for with how we run our offense.
And what about such a fast offense, Brendan, has helped you elevate your game just as one of such a quick outside hitter in the Miva?
Yeah, I think for someone who's somewhat undersized, I'm only 6'2", speed helps, especially when you have a big right side blocker, just to be getting downhill and pretty much on my way up as the ball is coming out of the setter's hands. It helps me to beat the block 9 out of 10 times. So I'm not 6'6", 6'7". I can't, just jump up and hit the ball like a lot of these guys can. I have to get there quick and find the seam in the block. So that helps me personally. And even if you're tall, we have a lot of taller attackers. They're capable of playing at that pace as well.
My next couple questions can be answered by both of y'all. Why is bringing high-level collegiate volleyball to the Midwest so important?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's just the consistency of growing the game and the exposure. And I think, whether it's a match here, maybe it's over a qualifier weekend, or maybe we are somewhere else and it's a pretty high level competitive matchup. I think what the Miva can help provide is just, and we're obviously a part of that, is just providing that eyes on the game. And I think that that's something where it's going to continue to grow and develop. And you look at a lot of men's volleyball in the Midwest, especially at the high school level, you're starting to see that growth in certain states. Like you have Minnesota where it's growing a good amount. You have Oklahoma where it's starting to grow up and pick up a little bit more here and there. Indiana starting to pick it up. So, and if we're all in that geographical footprint, it's only going to help grow the game more. And I think that the more that we can kind of keep promoting as, coaches in this conference, I think it's only going to help the sport as a whole. And it's not just for us, it's how much can we truly keep growing the game. And I think that's a challenge for every coach at all the D1, D2 levels, is just making sure that we can continue to keep growing the brand and growing the product out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I come from a basketball sport or basketball state in Indiana, and that's kind of everyone's first love growing up there. And I think, when you take a sport like volleyball, where you're, using a lot of the same athletic moves, it takes the same athletic ability to play. A lot of kids are going to have already seen that, like, this is a really fun sport. It's a little more, I don't know, there's a lot of demands with basketball, especially at the high school level, where I lived. So just recognizing that this is a really fun sport and just keeping more kids involved is only going to help.
So when it comes to watching the sport, specifically if you're looking for new fans to watch Lindenwood, what could a fan expect when they tune into a Lindenwood volleyball match?
I could go off the court, and he could obviously elaborate a little bit more on the court. But off the court, it's again, I think the speed of the game is something that's fun and exciting. And then for me, I also like to kind of put a little bit of creativity in terms of how we can do things offensively. I give a little bit of liberty to make sure that they can go ahead and have a lot of say in what we do, and make sure that we can still, it's my program, right? But at the same time, they have a lot of input to go ahead and let's keep expanding our game, becoming a complete volleyball player, and kind of go from there. So there's that creativity too. And then there's a lot of physicality and a lot of fun. There's obviously going to be a little bit of banter back and forth, especially when it's going to be in some high pressure situations. So that's always a fun added element. But also at the same time, like the physicality with the speed is kind of a great 1-2 combination.
Kind of like he said, there's a lot of creativity that goes into how we run our offense. One thing that the coaches encourage is, we're not like robots. We're still volleyball players. So we rely on a lot of explosive plays to kind of keep the fun element. We're not just a bunch of robots out there running a system. Like, we're still making plays when we can, and we're relying on our athletic ability to do so.
What are you truly most excited for about this 2026 season?
I think we brought in a lot of great pieces, both freshmen and transfers, that kind of allow this group to kind of reach a new height and reach a new level. And I think that that's something that might get kind of slept on early on, but it's something that we're going to continue to keep making sure that these guys are prepped and ready for. Just because it was pretty simple in terms of what we want our brand to be. Last year wasn't exactly how we wanted it to go, but we knew that if we wanted to continue to take the next step as a program, we needed to find a lot of like-minded individuals that wanted to play hard, play at a high level, and they wanted to compete and they wanted to win. And so it was kind of, just making sure that that is kind of the expectation set, and us obviously as a staff following through on knowing what our standards are, and them making sure that they execute that and hold each other accountable. And I think that that's the thing that's going to be most exciting, is we have probably about a third of a new roster right now. So it kind of a new brand, and each year, each team kind of gets to make it their own. So the exciting piece is seeing how this group can continue to grow and evolve, especially after a solid fall. And again, you have a pretty quick turnaround once we get back from winter break. We have a little over a week to get ready and prepped, because then we're playing out at Long Beach.
Going into last year's season, we lost a pretty large chunk of some upperclassmen, some leaders, and that kind of left a gap of leadership. We didn't really know. We brought in a lot of new guys. We didn't really know. We were still kind of figuring out how to play together. And I think with a full season under our belt going into this spring, I'm really excited. And with the new pieces we have that we added in the offseason, I think it's going to be a really good year.
Yeah. Obviously, we talk about a lot of the pieces that you've added, because it can't obviously just be Brendan Louthain we trust. Who else on this team should we be looking out for going into this next season?
Yeah, I think a couple of the newcomers that we have, we have Gabriel, who we got over from St. Thomas Aquinas, and Luke Kraft, who is over at Maryville. And I think those two guys are guys that want to compete and they want to play at a high level. And they're volleyball junkies, students of the game. They love to watch film. They love to kind of step out of their comfort zone, be pushed, even more than kind of what they've previously went through and endured, and they kind of just want to keep growing their game. And the thing that's awesome about the guys that were all returners is they kind of just made sure that they kind of help fit in and feel like they were a part of the program from right when they started to step foot on campus and get going to those open gyms, or when we're doing our small group stuff early on when we're in the fall. And then once you kind of get through all those systems in place, it starts to kind of feel like riding a bike. And I think it's credit to the team culture and to the group of guys, and it's something where I think those two are for sure going to make a pretty good impact. And then ultimately too, like our freshman class that we brought in, they played at a high level during club. We had Brett, who's set for the U19 team, for I think it was the Norseca group. And, he's just done a really good job of kind of coming in and pushing Zach. And that's another individual that comes in with a boatload of experience, is Zach Solomon. So middles are always going to be a competitive group. We have 6 guys that any given day can be out there. It's a tough environment. And one thing that we always kind of preach in our gym is if we want to be one of the best teams in the country, then we have to make sure that we have the second best team across the net. And so it's kind of instilling that culture, and then again, them kind of cultivating it and pushing each other. You could be going in the same position to try to be out on the court, and as you're trying to do that, you're still going to be helping that guy know what he's going to do on a game day and what you're seeing, even if you're not going to be out there. So it's a unique culture, it's a unique environment, but also at the same time, it's fun and it's competitive.
Yeah, and I agree. I think, I like the pin group. Obviously, that's a little biased because I'm in the pins, but yeah, Zach's running the show. Brett's doing a great job learning from Zach. And then the middles, we had a younger group of middles last year. They're still developing. They look a lot better. And Amir's kind of grown into his frame a little more. And yeah, we're really taking advantage of just developing. I think we had a really good summer individually, just kind of away, working on our own games. So that's another exciting piece in addition to some new guys learning how they play. But yeah, no, Zach's running the show for sure. That was my point. It's like we got really good leadership with our setters, and I think that's going to help during the season.
Yeah. Now, one question for each of you. Coach Joe, you talk a lot about, just overall philosophy. It takes a strong coaching philosophy to take a team like Lindenwood to where it has been in the past. And I just wanted to ask you what it takes, both in and out of the gym to kind of inspire these kids to reach heights that you can reach.
Yeah. Takes a lot, but also at the same time, it doesn't, if that actually makes sense. As a coach, and as I've been here for what feels like forever at this point, you have to know that at the same time, like not every single year, the same thing is going to work. And so when we do our end of the year meetings, the guys providing constructive feedback, and we obviously do the same too. It's knowing how we need to reshape and refocus and things that maybe, when we're going through the conference grind or just the season grind in general, that we may overlook as a staff, or we may not have it in the forefront. We know that we need to have thick skin and we need to make the adjustment. And I think that that's something where, after last year, we knew that we needed to do a better job. And so Mike and I are always in here. We're constantly pretty much bashing our heads against the wall, trying to figure out what we can do in order to make sure that we continue to make this improve over time. And so that's something where it's a testament to us and our program, and it's a testament to them that there is going to be a little bit of a grace, but we know that we need to make sure that we're going to keep pushing each other and ironing, kind of sharpening iron. So I think the philosophy is going to constantly shape and develop, but it also depends team by team. What we did 2 years ago with that group is not going to be the same that we do in sense of how we approach it. We learned a lot from that, both positives and negatives. And now it's how can we make sure that we take those positives and any of the negatives that we had, we learned from that, and we can kind of make it, maybe it's a little more seamless of approach, or maybe it's a little bit more laid back. Maybe it's going to be, hey, we need to focus on this, and this a little bit more. It's a lot of give and take. Being in this spot, you're a constant student of the game. So that's something that I want to take pride in that. And I know that that's something that if we want them to be complete volleyball players, we need to constantly keep learning and kind of make sure that we're fine tuning what we need to do in order to kind of help them reach their highest potential. And, if playing pro is something that they want to do, make sure that we're getting them ready for that. The workforce, making sure that you understand, hey, volleyball is a small part of it. These are real life examples and things that are going to occur. And like, how can we help you approach those?
Yeah. And on top of that, Brendan, what goes on a personal level, on just as a team individually during an off season where you take the student of the game, the things that you've learned from that last season, and you grow on it? What goes on in an off season for you?
Yeah, I think for me personally, this summer was more so just like a lot of reflection. I think last season was kind of my first year being a full year starter and really taking on a leadership role. So I think taking what I've learned from last season and making adjustments on what I think is going to help the team overall for this year was really important. When you have those 2 months away from campus, away from the team, really take a step back and look at yourself, watching games over the summer, and then, yeah, just still staying in the gym, getting reps as much as possible, avoiding getting rusty. So just little things like that. But I think, yeah, definitely taking away, preventing burnout, and just looking at yourself and thinking like, okay, what could I change for this upcoming year, especially as a senior, my last opportunity? What do I really want to fix? to have the best season.
Why is Lindenwood a team that should be feared in the Miva this year?
Teams aren't really prepared for what we've put together over the past few months. I think it's really easy to think of like past matchups and think, okay, it's just Lindenwood. But I think teams should prepare and realize like this Lindenwood team this year is not the same Lindenwood team that they've faced in years past. And that's from someone who's been in the gym and seen the progress firsthand. So I'm really fired up. And I'm locked in for 3 months now. It's just going to be straight volleyball for me.
For this group, it's kind of, for lack of a better phrase, it's kind of embracing that underdog role, because again, I think it's going to be something where, early on and as things go, it's going to be, how can we make sure that, we embrace that role and we kind of make sure that we put out our best foot forward. And I think it's something where, again, as I've been here, it's been something that has happened numerous times throughout a season and even throughout my entire time of being here. Like we're constantly kind of put in that spot of like Tendi said, it's it's just Lindenwood, and so it's kind of making sure that you have something to prove. You have pride in the name on the jersey, and you make sure that you want to put out the best product that you can. And I think for our guys, they've already kind of started embracing that. They're excited for that, and they're kind of chomping at the bit to kind of get going and play against a lot of these high level teams that we're going to see on our schedule, and making sure that we are for also at the same time walking the walk and talking the talk too. So
yeah, I think we're all really anxious to see you guys back on the court. For me specifically, I've always been interested in how we've talked about it a lot, how fast of an offense you guys really run. Where does that come from? Is it the talent that you guys have on your roster, Coach Joe? Is it something that you wanted to establish? Because with a quick offense comes a lot of room for error, and we've seen that in the past. So I just wanted to get a little straight from the source. What such a fast offense, where that philosophy comes from?
yeah, and I think that it kind of goes with, again, like just as it's kind of been like the underdog side of thing, it's kind of in the recruiting piece too. Like that's where it kind of starts. So like early on when I first got here, a lot of the guys that that were a part of the program, it's just they were guys that often got passed up on by a lot of the higher level Division 1. So they already kind of have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And so when they're only going to be, like a 6 foot to like a 6'3" stature, like you're going to have to beat it with speed. Either that or you're going to have great physicality and a great vert, exhibit A over here. But at the same time, it's just trying to format and shape it based off of the guys that we have in our gym. And the more that you can consistently have that type of set, I guess, on both pins, it allows it to be a little bit more dynamic. Each guy kind of grows into their element, but it's all kind of just walking through the timing. It's kind of, looking back at it probably about 2-3 years ago, just thinking about the style of our offense. And, it's funny because it's a big sports guy. So I'm looking at it and I'm just like, well, it's kind of like the Phoenix Suns, from when they had Steve Nash there, and you're just kind of doing the run and gun type of thing. So, it's kind of fun, and it allows a little bit more creativity. When I played and I was a setter, it was kind of similar to that as well. And, for me, like I like to go with the speed, and it's kind of like the mentality side and how you approach it too. And so I think that the more that I can kind of instill a little bit of that in them, but then still letting them have a little bit of their brand and their flavor too, it's kind of ultimately what it builds up towards. And again, that's why the fall is great. It's important in that regard, because there's, like you said, it's a lot of timing, conversations, reps, just making sure that everyone's going to be on the same page.
Brendan, you've said this before. You've grown with this program. What about being a key piece in such a fast offense has helped you grow as a player, something that you hadn't really realized before?
Yeah, I think the fast offense is perfect for me. I don't think I could survive, but I couldn't play well in an offense that's just high ball after high ball. It's really easy to know as an outside attacker in an in-system scenario when there's not going to be a middle there. I like us in one-on-one situations. I think we do a really good job putting the ball away when there's just one blocker. So that's easy for me. And, I know in an out-of-system high ball scenario, now I'm going to have 4 to 6 hands at the net. So just learning that over the past 4 years has really helped me to be prepared for in-season games. It's like freshman, sophomore year when I was just kind of learning. That's when I'm picking up on like, okay, do this here or do this here. Like those are the two like crucial periods where I'm learning, and now it's all kind of coming together.
And then, Coach, what can you say about the development of the athlete that's sitting right next to you in Brendan Louthain, and why he should be considered one of the best outsides in the Miva?
Because he provides a unique package in terms of a volleyball player. You look at his stature, and every time that people see him, they're just like, he's an outside. And then you see him go up and you see him hit a bic or hit one of our sets that's going to be in system. And then you definitely see the reason why he can be a pretty formidable player in this conference. And, it's a testament to him and his growth over time. And that's something where I still remember a couple years ago when I'm going down the bench and we're looking to make a change, and I look over at him and I go, "Are you ready?" He goes, "What?" And to kind of go start from there to get to where we are right now, and just see the growth and the maturity, both him as a player, but as a leader. And it's something where, again, it's credit to him. And again, we talk about the adjustments and learning, and he did a great job of that over the summer. And I think that's a key piece for a lot of this group is they made sure that they did a lot of reflection and when they came back for the fall, it was all right, back to business, back to work. Let's be ready to kind of build this how we know that we can. And with another year of experience that we just went through, like, let's make sure that we are ready and prepared for it. And so I think that that's something where he's kind of helped spearhead it with him and Zach, and the two of them have kind of helped guide this group on where they want it to go and what the expectations, are going to shape up to be for them as we continue to get ready to navigate once season comes here in a couple weeks.
Well, I'll be the first to say I am so excited to watch you guys play this year. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it out to St. Louis and go to a game. But with that, I think that'll do it for my questions. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and talking about your program, talking about what to expect this upcoming season. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you doing this for us.